So you're heading to the movies. You stroll into your local theater, grab a large popcorn because apparently theaters think it's acceptable to charge you enough to buy a house for a snack, and snag a drink that could hydrate an entire continent. Then the moment of truth. What movie are you gonna watch? You scan the options. Too much romance, too much action, too little. Well, everything. But then you spot it. Mufasa, the Lion King. And just like that, you're intrigued. You gather your things and you go ahead and spend a couple of hours of your life only to wonder why you didn't just stay home and watch a nature documentary.
The giant horse conch weighs over 11 pounds. That's a lot of mollusk.
Let's dive into why this movie might have been a bigger mistake than the whole live-action remake of The Lion King itself. Mufasa, The Lion King is a prequel to The Lion King remake from 2019. Not the original masterpiece from 1994. Now, I only recently got around to watching the 2019 remake, and honestly, I didn't bother reviewing it at the time because everything worth saying had already been covered. But here are my quick thoughts. It's basically a shot-for-shot retelling of the original, but executed in a way that misunderstands everything that made the original so iconic. Every change they made felt unnecessary, and actually detracted from the story, while none of the additions improved a thing. The remake drags everything out to an unbearable length, which ruins the pacing. Take the opening scene from the original, for example. It's quick, impactful, and immediately establishes Scar as a menacing figure when he slams his paw down on a mouse. In the remake, they spend ages showing off hyper-realistic CGI as the mouse scurries around, completely missing the point of the original scene. Oh, and let's not call it a live-action remake, because it's not. It's 100% CGI, animated to look realistic, but still animated nonetheless. Just because it looks real doesn't make it live action. It's the same logic that makes Avatar more animated than Who Framed Roger Rabbit. The bigger issue with remaking a classic like The Lion King is the insulting implication that animation isn't good enough unless it's hyper-realistic. But does making the characters more realistic improve them? Absolutely not. Stripping away the expressive human-like faces robbed the remake of any emotional depth. In the original, you could tell what Simba was feeling in every scene. In the remake, all you get is lifeless, sterile animals with cold, blank stares. Animation is supposed to bring characters to life. Literally, that's what the word animate means. Yet the 2019 film feels less alive, despite its realistic look. Now, let's talk about Mufasa, the Lion King. The prequel exists solely because the 2019 remake grossed an absurd amount of money, thanks to audiences who reward Disney's blatant nostalgia cash grabs. But I'll give credit where it's due. This movie has a few positives. First, the characters actually have facial expressions this time. They finally realized that making talking animals too realistic just doesn't work. Second, the color palette is more vibrant compared to the drab grays and browns of the remake. Unfortunately, that's where the positives end. The film uses a completely unnecessary framing device where Rafiki tells Mufasa's origin story to Simba's daughter Kiara. This adds nothing to the story and feels like an excuse to force Timon and Pumbaa into the film. And let me tell you, every scene they're in is an absolute train wreck. Their comedy is obnoxious, unfunny, and crammed with awkward, fourth wall breaking jokes that completely ruin the tone. It's like they're scared to let the movie have any sincere moments. The animation feels off too. The overly polished, hyper-realistic visuals give everything a strange, unnatural quality. As if you're watching a Michael Bay movie, but with animals. And the songs? Completely forgettable. Disney's recent trend of half-baked, uninspired melodies continues, with one cringe-inducing villain song repeating the word bye-bye like a bad parody. The story itself doesn't help either. They attempt to flesh out Mufasa's backstory by separating him from his pride as a cub, where he's raised by lionesses who supposedly teach him magical hunting abilities. The logic here is shaky at best and feels like another forced attempt at modern messaging about girl power. It's unnecessary and doesn't align with the world building of the original. And then there's Taka, later known as Scar. His jealousy of Mufasa, which was so integral to the original story, feels rushed and shoehorned in. Instead of slowly building tension between the brothers, the movie lazily uses Sarabe as the catalyst for Taka's betrayal. It's cliche and lacks the emotional weight it needs. The climax, equally uninspired. Mufasa convinces a group of random animals he's never met to rise up and fight the evil white lions with all the grace and subtlety of a high school play. Oh, and Pride Rock gets its origin story, because apparently we needed that. It's formed by a random earthquake during the final battle. Really, even smaller details are mishandled. Remember Rafiki's stick? The remake gave it a weirdly sentimental backstory, and now the prequel decides to reveal it's just a random branch he grabbed during a stampede. It's almost comical how unnecessary these explanations are. In summary, Mufasa, the Lion King, is another soulless Disney cash grab. It adds nothing meaningful to the legacy of the original, and then in some ways, it tarnishes it further. If you're a fan of The Lion King, stick with the 1994 classic. It's still the king of the jungle. And by the way, guys, thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers. It really means a lot to me. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it. Your support helps me keep making content like this. See you in the next one.